So this is interesting as the American bombs fall in the Middle East in a retaliatory attack for our 3 soldiers that were lost 3 years ago last month, actually 4 years ago last month, Lydia. The Trump administration took out General Soleimani. Remember that guy? Mm-hmm. Big bad terror leader, essentially, from Iran. He was in Iraq. And it was interesting what Joe Biden said in the aftermath of that operation, which was a successful operation to take out a guy who had killed American forces. Take a look.
He was the mastermind, but he was not the whole of the regime or of its capacity to strike back. So the question is, was the reward of removing a bad actor worth the risk of what comes next? We don't have evidence to suggest that Trump or anyone around him thought seriously about that calculus. It's been reported that the Pentagon, which has long warned against taking a shot like this, was shocked that Trump would take such a risk.
That was one weird political statement, I thought, and I remember it well, and I thought it was very unpatriotic, actually. I look forward to hearing what President Trump is going to say. Nothing on Truth Social yet.
Nothing. And I remember Hillary Clinton at the time also saying that President Trump would plunge us into so many wars, and we had so much peace and prosperity under his leadership. So.
It's true. It is true. So we're joined now by Abe Hamadeh. He is an Army veteran. He's deployed to the region. And we're also joined by Victoria Coates, a veteran of the Trump administration. She was a former Deputy National Security Advisor, as well as other posts. Welcome to you both. Abe, first to you. What do you think of what happened tonight?
Well, Greg, I think we have to look at how did we get here. You know, so many people want to say that this started after October 7th, but I was actually serving in Saudi Arabia in the Middle East under both President Trump and Biden. And what Biden did the moment he took office, he decided to delist the Houthis as a terrorist organization after Trump listed them as a terrorist organization. He decided to appease Iran, but he also put pressure on Saudi Arabia to stop their aerial campaign against the Houthis. So look at what's happening now. It seems that this administration has lost complete deterrence in the region. They have alienated our allies, emboldened our enemies, and put Americans in harm's way. And you know, I have some friends who are serving in the region right now. I would not be confident under this leadership for us to be going into war. So right now you have Antony Blinken failing diplomatically. You have Lloyd Austin, who went missing, at the hospitalization for days on end. So I'm very concerned on who's actually running this show. And you look at what's happening, with our forces in Jordan, Syria, Iraq. There's so many American forces all across the Middle East, and Iran has shown that they have capabilities of striking many of our assets. So it's very scary. Our soldiers and our troops all over the region need to be really aware, because Iran, I don't think this is going to deter Iran from striking back. I don't think this was quite enough. When you talked about Soleimani, when President Trump took out Qasem Soleimani, who landed at the Baghdad airport after he was plotting an attack on our American embassy, that really created deterrence. Iran did strike back after that assassination. If you remember, they struck Erbil, a base up in northern Iraq. And thank God we didn't lose any American lives, although there was a lot of injuries there. But it really did create deterrence from Iran and so many of these bad actors.
I should point out, Abe is running a very effective campaign for the United States Congress in Arizona. Good luck with that. All right.
And we need a great, strong southern border. And obviously, Abe, you are all for that. What's going on there. Victoria, let's talk about the economic sanctions and the lack thereof that the Biden administration refuses to put on Iran. We've talked to several guests. We've been talking about this for years now. Under the Biden administration, why continue to enrich the mullahs with all of our mullah? We know what they're going to do with our taxpayer dollars. Why?
Well, thank you, Lydia. And I certainly join you in wishing Abe very well on in his race. We do need him. We do need a strong border in Arizona, in the U.S. Congress. I was in the Situation Room on that night in January 2020 as the Deputy National Security Advisor for the Middle East and North Africa when the Soleimani strike occurred. And that took place with months of preparation, because President Trump had said to us, if they take out an American, I need an option that can be executed quickly. And so we spent those months getting that target prepared, tracing the activities that you need to trace, and getting ready to take the strike. So when the president was ready, when we lost that contractor, we had an option for him. Apparently, the Biden folk have been caught flat-footed, and because I guess they thought this was never going to happen, even though the president had made it a red line. And so what we saw tonight was very, very weak. And, it wasn't the sort of thousands of munitions you'd expect to be sent in some kind of massive strike that would actually brush the Iranians back. And to your point, they are enriched with $80 billion in oil revenues, in these unfrozen assets that they can now use to fund these attacks on us. So I would say the next 48 hours would be critical to see how they respond.
All right. Look, we just did get through 20 years of war in the Middle East, Abe. Is it a fine line? Do I call it a fine line? I don't know if America has the appetite for a war with Iran right now, as bad as they are, and
Right.
maybe they should have been a lot more aggressive. But I don't sense that. Do you?
No, but what President Trump understood was we have peace through strength. So, of course, nobody wants to see American lives at risk, but it seems that Iran is at war with us through their proxies, and the proxies are enriched, they're emboldened. They have them in Hezbollah in Lebanon, they have them in Syria and Iraq, and they killed 3 of our service members the other day. But let's not forget our 2 Navy SEALs who went missing in the ocean just a couple weeks ago, who were declared dead. So Iran's capabilities have only grown, and through this Biden administration's weakness, it's going to continue to grow. So we have to recognize the situation that we're in, and I think unfortunately now we've lost complete deterrence in the Middle East. And the only way to get it back, because once you lose deterrence, it's very, very difficult to gain it back. I think the only way to gain it back is by having President Trump back in office, because the rest of the world knows that he means business because of what he did by creating that strong deterrence, by taking action against some of the advice from so many of these pundits and advisors and even our allies. So he was tough with the region. He understands how they think. A lot of this is psychological, especially in the Middle East. So I'm really concerned that the Biden administration, through their inaction after the 160 attacks that have occurred since October, finally they decided to respond. But what kind of message does that send to the rest of the world?
Yeah, wow. Late and lame, perhaps. Thank you very much, Victoria Coates and Abe Hamadeh. To be continued for sure. Thank you.